All right? Let's explore this together. I want to start with a question I've been afraid to ask out loud. What if obedience to God doesn't make your life easier, but emptier first? What if following Him doesn't add comfort, security, or applause, but strips things away until all that's left is faith and fear sitting in the same room? I've wrestled with this, especially in seasons where doing the right thing seemed to cost me everything I was holding on to. And maybe you're there too. Maybe you've done what you felt God asked of you, and instead of peace, you found loss. Instead of clarity, confusion. Instead of blessing, silence. And you're wondering, quietly, was it worth it? If you've ever felt that tension, this message matters to you. This isn't for people who feel spiritually strong or certain. This is for people in the in-between. People who obeyed and still hurt. People who followed God and watched parts of their life fall apart anyway. This is for anyone in a wilderness season asking why faith seems so expensive. I don't have neat answers. I'm not here as an expert. I'm here as a fellow traveler, trying to understand why obedience sometimes feels like loss before it ever feels like gain. When I look at Scripture, what surprises me most is how human the heroes of faith really are. Take Abraham. We often reduce his story to a single word: faith. But before the promise, before the legacy, there was a man standing alone with a command that made no sense. God asked him to give up Isaac, the son he waited decades for, the promise that gave his life meaning. Imagine the silence of that moment, the internal conflict, the fear he couldn't voice. Abraham wasn't fearless. He was obedient while terrified. Every step up that mountain must have felt like a betrayal of everything he believed God had said before. And yet, he walked, or Ruth. We romanticize her loyalty, but we forget the cost. She chose obedience that led her into poverty, into uncertainty, into a foreign land where she had no guarantees. She left behind familiarity, safety, and identity. Her obedience wasn't glamorous. It was desperate. It looked like gleaning leftovers in a field just to survive. No miracles yet, no assurance. Just daily faith that maybe God was still present in the loss. Then there's Job, a man who didn't just lose comfort, he lost everything. His children, his wealth, his health, his reputation. Even his friends turned against him. And what haunts me most isn't his suffering, it's the silence. God didn't immediately explain. Job obeyed without understanding, worshipped without answers, and cried out without relief. His faith wasn't polished. It was raw. It was questioning. It was honest. And the disciples, ordinary people who followed Jesus, thinking they were stepping into purpose, only to step into sacrifice. They left careers, families, and stability. They followed him into danger, rejection, and eventually martyrdom. Their obedience didn't lead to comfort. It led to a cross-shaped life. What ties all these stories together isn't reward, it's cost. Obedience demanded something real from them, something painful, something they couldn't get back. And here's the tension I can't ignore. God didn't always stop the loss. He didn't always prevent the pain. He allowed obedience to feel like everything was being taken away. So here's where I start to feel the shift. Slowly, quietly. What if obedience was never about protecting our lives, but about revealing who we trust when life is no longer protected? What if the loss wasn't punishment, but preparation? Not preparation for more stuff, but preparation for deeper intimacy. Notice how none of these people gained clarity before they obeyed. Abraham didn't know the outcome on the mountain. Ruth didn't know Boaz was watching. Job didn't know restoration was coming. The disciples didn't know resurrection was ahead. They obeyed in the dark. And maybe that's the point. Maybe obedience isn't proven when it's safe, but when it's costly. Here's the moment that reframes everything for me. In every one of these stories, the thing that was lost was never the greatest thing they gained. Abraham didn't just gain a son back. He gained a deeper revelation of God as provider. Ruth didn't just gain security. She became part of a redemptive story larger than her survival. Job didn't just regain blessings. He encountered God in a way comfort never could have taught him. The disciples didn't just gain purpose, they gained Christ himself. And that's the quiet truth we often miss. Following God sometimes means losing everything that made us feel secure, so we can finally discover that He was the security all along. The wilderness wasn't rejection, it was invitation. An invitation to trust God without the props, without the backup plans, without the safety nets. If you're in a season where obedience feels expensive, where faith has cost you relationships, stability, comfort, or clarity, maybe the question isn't, why is God taking this from me? But what is He giving me access to that comfort never could? What if this loss is carving space for a deeper knowing of Him? I don't say this lightly. Loss hurts. Obedience can break your heart before it builds your faith. But maybe that's where real faith is born, not in what we keep, but in what we're willing to surrender. So here's what I'm carrying with me, and what I want to leave you with. Obedience is not about what you lose on the way. It's about who you find when there's nothing left to hold on to. This week, ask yourself honestly, what am I clinging to that might be keeping me from deeper trust? And what would it look like to follow God? Not because it's safe, but because He's worth it. And maybe the real gain is Him.